And it wasn't that long ago with softball that we were talking about setting an attendance record for a regular season game up in Oklahoma City when OU played Texas on Friday night. They set the record. I don't remember exactly the number, probably like 9 or 10,000 people attended that particular game. But recently, the talk has been, could OU host a softball game on Owen Field? Mainly because Nebraska set a record. They're going to have 80,000 plus in attendance for a volleyball match this fall at their football stadium. And so everyone's kind of talking about that. And we tweeted out, I guess, are we overimposed Marita Hines Field on top of Owen Field? And it doesn't quite fit. The dimensions would probably be about, in my estimates, about 7 to 10 feet short on one of the outfield walls there. So you could certainly kind of jerry rig it, but it would take a lot of work to make that field ready for play. Tyler, I guess there's a lot more that goes into it than just does it fit. Like, you have to determine, do you put turf down? Do you have dirt? Like, how do you put the netting up? So on and so forth. What's your overall opinion on how feasible that is?
I think it's something that's definitely very realistic. Obviously, like you alluded to, Adam, you're going to have to get creative with it from a schematic standpoint. And putting that softball field, obviously, with putting home plate kind of right there in the southeast corner, it doesn't fit perfectly. You would have to get creative. Obviously, maybe having almost like the green monster like we see at Fenway Park. You'd have to maybe get a little bit creative with that on the left field line over on the west sideline. But no, I definitely think it was kind of funny. We talked a little bit about it in the group chat, and then you put the thing out on Twitter, and we got some pretty good traction. I think we got some really good responses talking about it. Obviously, Jada Coleman, Jocelyn Allo, and even Patty Gasso, kind of like interacting with a little bit. They've seen some of the renderings that are being talked about. And, Patty, she's obviously, she's already, kind of mentioned it to Joe Castiglione. This is something that, at least has been talked about. How serious this could be one day, I'm not sure. But there's not a better program. There's not a more popular premier program in the country right now in a state that loves softball, to its core, than what we have right here in Norman, Oklahoma. So is it something that is doable? Yeah, I think so. Definitely, I think for a one-off scenario, you do this one time, it has to be the right matchup. I think that you have to have the right opponent to come in, because ultimately it doesn't do yourself any good if you decide that you want to put this in the football stadium and you only have 5,000 or 6,000 fans. If you're going to do this right, bring in, maybe you do an SEC opponent, or that could be the opportunity for, once OU is in the SEC in the next year or two, maybe, bring Oklahoma State back and play them inside on Owen Field. I think that would be really cool. But you could definitely do some really cool things with it. Obviously, putting that softball field right there, you're going to have the entire, from the 50-yard line on to the north end zone. So maybe you kind of build a few other things around it. Maybe you get a music act in there, do something to where you can try to drive 20 to 25, maybe even 30,000 fans into this. Because again, do I expect 80,000 fans to turn out for a spring game or for a softball game? No, absolutely not. But if you could figure out a way to get 25, 30,000 in there, charge $10 a pop, I mean, Adam, for one night, you could, see upwards of $250,000 in ticket sales. And I think it's definitely something worth pursuing.
Yeah, you have to remember that Nebraska's volleyball program sells out their basketball arena for volleyball on a regular basis, which is, roughly around 10,000 people that are going to those types of events. Whereas softball, I know we get tons of sellouts, but Marita Hines is roughly 1,800 people at this point. So
Yeah,
there's a
roughly.
large gap there between what softball is currently drawing, even though I know it is, currently sold out. But you and I kind of have a perspective on what waitlist looks like. And I expect them to sell out, every game in the new stadium in Love's Field, at least in the first season. But I don't know if that's necessarily a guarantee going forward. But yes, there is quite a bit of logistical challenges to doing a softball game in Owen Field. I don't think it's something that could happen in 2024. I think it's at least 2 years away, because you have to decide, how do you build that net or that wall in the outfield? How do you, I don't think you tear out the grass and put dirt in for one game for softball.
No.
I think you probably have to put a mat down. You have to get turf out there. Not a lot of softball programs even play on turf. But you'd have to find a turf that you could put in and install just for one game. And then think about all the other little logistical things, like you need to put your bases out there. You need to have all the equipment and everything that a softball game would require. And you have to do that within the confines of probably a 3-game series, because you're not doing that on a weeknight. You're probably doing this on a Saturday. You want to make it the big event that people fly into from around the country. It's their special event. People from Dallas are able to drive up. And then, you have to do that in between a game on Friday and a game on Sunday. That's a lot of logistics. That's a very hard thing to do. It's not the same as volleyball as far as just rolling out a mat, putting down the hardwood out there like you can with those types of events. So a lot of logistics there. But I think you could, if you did it the right way with scheduling and the right opponent. This is not a preseason or an exhibition. This is something that you need to tell fans, hey, this is a big time matchup. We need everybody there. I think you could draw, a crowd of 50,000 plus. So certainly something interesting.
You think that much? You think they could get that many people in there?
I think if they did it the right way, I think it's possible. Yeah.
Interesting. I almost kind of wonder if, when you talk about the layout of the field, putting home play down in the southeast corner, if they move it around, between any of the four corners, do you use the outfield as almost kind of like a Patty's party type scenario where you've got kind of like a party going on in the outfield? Obviously, if you're Jason Ferris, the director of the football field operations and the maintenance, he's probably scratching his eyes out just the thought about this, having to dump all that dirt in there and make some pretty serious changes to the football field in the middle of spring practice and all this stuff going on. But no, it is definitely something that I think is worth kicking around a little bit. See if Oklahoma chooses that they want to pursue this. Set it up like you alluded to, make it a spectacle, make it the biggest thing in the sport, in the state. For that given weekend, and create a large turnover or turnout. But